Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Thank you for your support. There is a Donna box for contributions in the kitchen and also a link for contributions on the website.
Well, good morning. As I get started, will you kindly just lean over to somebody who's nearby you and say good morning? Make sure you know somebody's name. Online, send a chat to somebody, say good morning in some way.
Good morning.
From the bleacher seats. Yeah. It's good to be with all of you. Today I'm going to offer a Dharma talk on worship, which is not a word that we use in Zen a whole lot. And I'm going to put worship in conversation with this idea of transmission, which is particularly resonant for me these days with things that are on the horizon, but also I want to share with you. And so to get us started, I'm actually going to give you all something to read together, so you have it in front of you. You just want to pass that around. And while that's going around, what's coming are two pieces. One is an excerpt from a speech by David Foster Wallace, now famously called "This Is Water," and where he talks about worship in a particular way. And the other is a poem by Layman Pang, famous Zen practitioner. Ooh, cool things are happening over there. Thanks, Marla. And so this is the folks online. Hopefully you can read and see this as well. But I was thinking about the word worship, and I wanted to look it up again to figure out what's the etymology of it, because I wasn't all that familiar with it. And so in Old English, I'm not even going to try and pronounce what this word is. We are skippy something. Let's call it like that. It's been a long time since I've tried to read Beowulf or something in Old English. But the actual direct translation would be worth-ship, meaning acknowledging worth, giving value, or orienting oneself towards what one deems ultimate. Interesting idea. Orienting toward oneself towards what one deems ultimate. And it's interesting to me now that as the son of a preacher man, worship has particular connotations for me, but that have been reformed actually by this piece, which I encountered many years ago by David Foster Wallace. And this is excerpted from a commencement speech that he gave to Kenyon College, and you probably know better than I do, 2005-ish or so, something around that time. So it's about 20 years ago. And I thought we'd actually just start with his words first and see what resonates for you. So if you want to pull that up, I'll invite people in the room to read too. I'll start us off. And we'll do this because I'm a teacher and an educator as a spirit read. So spirit read means you read as long as the spirit moves you. However, the great thing about the spirit is the spirit always reads in complete sentences. So please stop at a period. Don't just stop in the middle of something. So I'll start us off, and then anyone else can jump in. This is in the middle of the speech, by the way. There's a lot that goes on to this. I just want to excerpt the piece here that's useful. Because here's something else that's weird but true. In the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is actually no such thing as atheism. There is no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships.
The only choice we get is what to worship.
And the compelling reason for maybe choosing some sort of God or spiritual type thing to worship, be it JC or Allah, be it Yahweh or Wiccan Mother Goddess, or the Four Noble Truths, or some inviolable set of ethical principles, is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive.
If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap your real meaning in life, then you will never have enough, never feel you have enough. It's the truth. Worship your body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally grieve you.
On one level, we all know this stuff already. It's been codified as myths, proverbs, cliches, epigrams, parables, the skeleton of every great story. The whole trick is keeping the truth up front in daily consciousness.
Worship power, and you will end up feeling weak and afraid, and you will need ever more power over others to numb you to your own fear. Worship your intellect, being seen as smart. You will end up feeling stupid, a fraud, always on the verge of being found out.
But the insidious thing about these forms of worship is not that they're evil or sinful, it's that they're unconscious. They're default settings. They're the kind of worship you just gradually slip into day after day, getting more and more selective about what you see and how you measure value without being fully aware that that's what you're doing.
And the so-called real world will not discourage you from operating on your default settings, because the so-called real world of men and money and power hums merrily along in a pool of fear and anger and frustration and craving and worship of self.
Our own present culture has harnessed these forces in ways that have yielded extraordinary wealth and comfort and personal freedom. Freedom all to be lords of our tiny, skull-sized kingdoms, alone at the center of all creation. This kind of freedom has so much to recommend it, but of course there are all different kinds of freedom, and the kind that is most precious you will not hear much talk about much in the great outside world of wanting and achieving. A really important kind of freedom involves attention and awareness and discipline, and being able truly to care about other people and to sacrifice for them over and over in myriad petty, unsexy ways every day.
It's probably good enough for our Dharma talk for today, but we'll say some things about it and put it in conversation. I'm curious in this moment in time, if this is familiar to you, great. If it's not, then great. I'm glad I could offer it to you. Is there a line or a sentence that stands out to you in particular from that piece? If we could keep it up for a minute more, that would be great too, Marla. Thank you.
I like the line on skull-sized kingdoms. That word, I wasn't searching for it. I thought that was funny.
For me, it's the, it's these forms of worship are not evil or sinful. It's that they're unconscious, they're default settings. And I find that to be very true, like often we value intellect and want to, sometimes like the way we feel we're serving others is through our intellect, right? So it can just be this unconscious grasping, and also true that at some point you will, intellect, cognition isn't something we can hold. It's something maybe we're gifted, but it's not something we can hold throughout our life.
We have Rosemary.
Let's see if I can memorize. Anyway, it was the part in the day-to-day trenches of our adult life. There's no such thing as atheism. That really hit me. And it was explained further about we're always expressing our values, and, for better or for worse. And that it's unconscious, and it's a beautiful reminder to be more aware as we live day to day. Thank you.
I like the idea of freedom in the last sentence, that it's something that we can do anywhere, in any society. We don't need to be given this permission.
Remind me of that song, You Gotta Serve Somebody. Is that Leonard Cohen, maybe? Yeah.
Dylan?
Is it Dylan?
No, I God bless Dave. But I also see a little bit of duality slipping in, dualistic thinking. In as one example, anything else you worship will eat you alive. But then when I think of the sort of exemplars, the spiritual exemplars, those two could very much be done in a default setting, in a non-conscious way, in a habitual way that also eats people alive without them necessarily recognizing that that's what's happening.
Yep. And argue that spiritual materialism is an expression of that exact challenge, right? Bridget, I think I'm toggling between glasses that make me see close and eyes that sort of let me see far. So, Bridget.
Well, I looked at the phrase I can remember that if you worship power, then you will be afraid. And with so many people appearing to have very powerful positions in our culture now that are challenging, I can identify with some of the fear. There are times when I feel that.
Yeah. And that's the part that actually resonated most with me now. This is years old, but I was thinking about how do people relate to power. So I was having, that resonates with me as well.
I was thinking about the title, This is Water, and I'm not familiar with the whole thing, but I was thinking about, especially towards the end, how when we talk about clinging, it's like if you're holding water like this or like this, if you try to cling to it, it's all gone. So there's a gentleness, and that sounds like the last line to me.
He starts off with the story of This is Water, and then you get it right, the story of two fish. The two fish are swimming along. Older fish runs into them, and he says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And then swims off, and the two younger fish look at each other and goes, "What the hell is water?" So the idea that we're sort of unconscious about the myriad things that we're swimming in, which actually sets this up in a really nice way. I think some things that I would have noticed about how the way David Foster Wallace frames this is the currency of worship in this view is attention. And this is to me where it starts to point us in an interesting direction. Where attention rests, we could say karma flows. And that's what's becoming evident here. But his fundamental claim isn't really a theological one, it's a phenomenological one, watching things as they arise. And that the danger, to Shisha's point, is that there are myriad forms of unconscious worship. And that's our actual default setting, to worship something that concretizes our sense of self and who we are. And so the kind of freedom we aspire to is a sort of mix of discipline, of attention, and care. That's the breaking out. That's what he starts to point to towards the end. And I'm going to move towards Layman Pang as an opportunity to say, here's what a different view of that will look like in a minute. But here's what I'd like to invite you to do for just a moment to make this a little more personal. So just wherever you are, just get into a comfortable space where you can hear my voice and get into a mindful position. Close your eyes if you like. And we'll just do a little reflection here. Imagine an omniscient, neutral observer watching a silent documentary of the last 7 days, is watching a silent documentary of the last 7 days of your life. No commentary, just time-lapsing your actions, places, purchases, conversations, the look on your face, how you treat people when you're tired, what you reach for when waking, what you do when no one is watching. Based solely on that documentary, what would this observer conclude that you worship? In other words, what receives your best attention, sacrifice, and energy? You might think about it in terms of time, where your hours went, money, what you supported materially, attention, your speech. what would this observer conclude that you worship? Okay, you can open your eyes. You don't have to share, but if you'd like to, a little vulnerability might be nourishing for others. So, what might someone conclude that you worship if they're observing you in the last week?
At first, I was like, "Oh no, coffee and whatever, Irish coffee." No. But I think because you said non-judgmental observer, that view started to come in. It started to just get bigger and bigger, and then I had an incredible tenderness for myself and just for life living itself through me, I think is maybe how I'll say it. And I really didn't come up with any one particular thing, but just like, oh, compassion.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. What else did you notice? I think we've got someone up there. I can't. Oh, Connie? Okay.
Outdoors,
Mm.
nature.
Mm-hmm. Given the amount of time that I spent running my 6-year-old around to various sports and activities and everything else, it's clear that I have a particular understanding of what good parenting looks like. And I'm very invested in that. Call it worship or not. Feels like a little bit of overkill, especially at my tired body this morning. The intent here is more just to start to getting you to pay attention to what is it that you are actually investing in your time, energy, and attention in your daily life. Michael.
I noticed that what I worship is getting things done. I love making lists and checking them off. And the endorphin rush I get, I just came back from a little trip and getting to the gate on time and making sure the plane was on time and all of that stuff. And a lot passes me by when I'm so focused on that next event.
Mm.
This last week, I would like to spend peace and quiet and doing nothing. And so that's what I worship.
Mm. I start us there to say that what we attend to swiftly swiftly shapes the quality of our lives and the quality of our relating and how we experience things. And as a sort of counter to this, when I think about if worship is kind of inevitable, meaning we are going to value something, what does it look like to value and convey the Dharma in a particular way? What does it look like to live it in a daily way? And so if you flip to the back page for folks who are in the room, and Marla, if you mind pulling up the second page, you should be able to see this all on one screen. It's a shorter one. We'll take a look at Layman Pang. I just want to give you a little bit of background about him. So Layman Pang was a householder, a celebrated householder and practitioner of Chan and Zen, who lived in the Tang dynasty. In fact, there's a couple of stories about him in the Blue Cliff Record. So there are a couple of koans that involved him or that reference things that he's written as well. So there are a few there. But he was a householder, not a monk, not a monastic, and he was a successful merchant. And he and his wife and daughter actually were all sincere practitioners. There are some good stories about his daughter kind of getting into Dharma battles with dad and winning, which are also very fun. But there are a few fun stories about him, I think, that are worth thinking. And he realized after practicing deeply, that he was concerned about material possessions. So apparently he decided to load all the family's possessions onto a boat and sink them because he didn't want to be attached to the wealth that he had accumulated. And he then became kind of a wandering ascetic with his wife and daughter. They wandered about from place to place to study with various teachers and made small goods out of bamboo to support themselves along the way. So this kind of itinerant lifestyle. And he has a really kind of brisk, blunt, smack you in the face, literally kind of way of operating. But he also writes this beautiful poetry as an expression of practice and how the Dharma is moving. And so for me, he is in the sort of same cloth as Vimalakirti. And I know some folks are studying the Vimalakirti Sutra in depth in practice or finishing that up. But a lay practitioner whose command of the Dharma was awe-inspiring even to seasoned monks and practitioners. And here's a simple poem that he's known for called Poem on Daily Life or a Poem on Ordinary Life, depending on your translation, that I thought we might read a little bit. I'll read this one in whole, and then you can reflect on lines that stand out to you. A Poem on Daily Life, Layman Pang. Daily life practice is not separate. It is just my being in natural harmony, neither grasping nor rejecting, nowhere open or closed. Who assign ranks of vermilion and purple? One speck of dust sunders great mountains. Spiritual penetration and wonderful functioning, fetching water and carrying wood. Let's just do one more pass. I'll invite you to read individual lines as well, just so it can kind of get into your bones a little and see what speaks to you. I'll start. Daily life practice is not separate.
It is just my being in natural harmony.
Neither grasping nor rejecting.
Nowhere open or closed.
Who assigns ranks of vermilion and purple?
One speck of dust sunders great mountains.
Spiritual penetration and wonderful functioning.
Fetching water and carrying wood. I can break down, sort of explicate the poem a little bit in a moment, but I'm curious again, what's a line that speaks to you from Layman Pang here, and how do you see it and relate to it?
Fetching water and carrying wood. Last week, Jess gave a talk on wash your bowls, and in my small group, I talked about hearing this line years ago in a different setting, and slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
Chop wood, carry water,
Mm-hmm.
and just how practice is in your everyday. That both in the sense that it doesn't have to be something on a pedestal,
Mm-hmm.
and in the sense that you should be mindful that in your smallest tasks you reflect, kind of the idea from the what is water, that where you're putting your attention is what reflects your values.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that really speaks to me.
Yeah, and the line that you're referring to, he is also from Layman Pang. He actually echoes this in multiple places, this chopping wood, carrying water in slightly different variations. Yeah, there's a sense of kind of falling into the rhythms of very ordinary life here.
Rosemary's hand is up.
We don't have the document up, but the whole thing in a way seems to turn worship on its head in a way, because it says, in a way, whatever's there is there, and we move on to the next thing. And worship has the sense of of almost of grasping, but certainly of an opinion. So anyway, this seemed to balance out the first piece for me. Thank you.
Other lines that struck you, or the same that struck you differently?
I like the line that says spiritual penetration, wondrous functioning, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we live in a society that's so wants to always be young and 20 years old. And my urge is always like, we have like these amazing bodies. Like, all right, so you can't see like when you were 20. Can you like have some awe and wonder for like our bodies are just so incredible no matter what age we are. There's so many parts of it that are just so wondrous and cool. So I like that piece of it.
Yeah, and there's a sense of ordinary wonder in that, right? There's just the commonplace wonder. The language of spiritual penetration, wonderful functioning, sometimes conveyed in Chan as having miraculous powers, right? And what Layman Peng is doing here is kind of disabusing us of those fantastical ideas of, levitation or clairvoyance or whatever things we think are going to come out of a practice. It's just the miracle of the everyday. Darcy.
Yeah, the line that stood out to me was who assigns ranks of vermilion or purple? And I'm not sure what he meant, but it just like to me, it's like, okay, yeah, I think I'm the one that puts one thing above another, or, is evaluating things all the time. And, when I'm doing my version of chopping wood and carrying water, I'm just wholeheartedly doing each thing. And it's very different than assigning these ranks, Yeah.
Yeah. I had to research this one a little bit, but it's the vermilion and purple were the official robes of rank in the Tang Dynasty, right? So they had a particular connotation of power and import. So the idea here is that conveying the Dharma does not require anything special. Even special robes are not required. You can embody and live it in the day-to-day.
Nate, I see a future series of Dharma talks from you around this phrase, one speck of dust. And that's because I think it deserves care to unpack, because there's some paradox there. On the one hand, I think I see what he's pointing to.
Mm-hmm.
On the level he's writing, but I think there's also a subtle danger in inviting us to think that we could attain an ideal place,
mm-hmm.
which is only available to gods.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have a position from which to do things. We can't clear our mirrors, clearly without.
Yep.
And so to me, that's tricky. That particular little piece, that desire to be free from all dust, and yet our inherent limited nature that cannot make that a reality.
Yeah. I think of it I almost put it in conversation with the Xinqing Ming and one hair's breadth of distinction sets heaven and earth apart. That speck of dust feels in the similar vein of even the smallest of things, and you can slip right back into unconscious living again. And you can fracture all that stillness very quickly. So yes, there's probably a lot of Dharma talks to do for that for a long time coming. Any other words, thoughts?
I think the first line of daily life practice is not separate. It is just my being in natural harmony. I notice like when I'm here, I have a certain habit energy. When I'm at work and things are busy, I have a certain habit energy. and it is, I mean, that's the challenge of the practice, is like, we're in all these different spaces, and you know, like, what is our, how does our practice show up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Darcy?
Yeah, the one speck of dust. Okay, so I'm sorry, Nate, I'm taking away from your next Dharma talk.
No,
but
go for it.
no, not that this would be a part of any Dharma talk, but what came up for me was, yeah, it feels like one speck of dust can just totally take you down, and shift the world on its heel. And it also, in my experience, is like, you can be in the grips of not of confusion or whatever, and you can, the speck of dust can just, there can be just like turning on a dime. It's not like you have to dig your way forever to get out.
Mm.
It's this, I don't know what it is. It can, you know, it's not in your control, but it can be like the turning on a dime the other way as well.
Mm. So it doesn't have to split the mountains. You know, it can do other things as well.
Well, I was thinking about how a speck of dust or sand actually creates a pearl as well. If the oyster, you know, puts, well, basically, phlegm. But, you know, sort of an anointing of that speck of dust to turn it into something precious. And I wonder if that's more what you're pointing to, Trish, is that not to eliminate the dust, but then to go back to the first piece of worship. There's something sweet about that, like acknowledging the dust and turning it into something valuable in your life. It's who you are.
Well, just I think, right, yeah, there's that. I think I would maybe it's hard to get at. I think what I'm trying to point to, that there is no getting rid of the dust. It's not even an option.
Yeah.
Unless you become a god. But unfortunately, that's not our lot.
I take that as more of descriptive in a certain way. Like, this is what happens, not as a condemnation or a statement meant to make you aspire to be a god. It's like just recognition that all it takes is one speck, and whoop, you're off. Joel.
Well, I want to reiterate what Shistof's just said. In my experience, that my practice seems to be recognizing that I'm just not going to be getting rid of dust. And I think of it in terms of what we've been talking about in studying the paramitas in the, particularly the readings this time about patience in the ongoing course that's happening with that. That there's what I find in my practice is that in any given task, washing the dishes, I have voices that pop up in my head that are like saying I'm doing it wrong, or it's so boring I should give up, or, you know, ridiculous things that, or things that sound ridiculous as I say them out loud, but they are nevertheless present with me. And that, you know, there's the style of painting called pointillism or pointillism, where everything is just dots of color. And I experience, I think that I'm really grateful to Appamada for giving me language for incorporating or integrating all these dots into something that I can be patient with and allow to unfold, not try to. I spent a lot of time in my life trying to get rid of dust, trying to get rid of negative stuff and irritating stuff and all of those things. And what I'm trying to do these days is more like integrate and to be patient with myself for just having those thoughts come up all the time.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think why perhaps I was drawn to this, I think the first line really hit me hard, and I needed it to hit me hard in a certain way. The daily life practice is not separate. This is not like a new idea. This is something we talk about at Upamot all the time. But for me, what I was thinking, that my particular path on this transmission path is, there are lots of parts of me that are very nervous about that. I'm not a monastic. I haven't lived inside of that space. And so there was something heartening just about feeling like, yeah, taking my kid to soccer practice is the practice right now. Getting ready for the Dharma talk is the practice right now. Getting on a plane that's been delayed for the 5th time is the practice right now. And feeling like that it is available to each of us in a particular way. And so my sort of bullet points are things to think about here. So if I think about David Foster Wallace, DFW's point is everybody worships. The danger is unconscious worship. Right? That's the thing. Layman Pang is doing something differently, saying like a life where worship is quietly given to thusness, to life as it is, and to compassionate participation is available to us. And so the inquiry is really around our actions, because bluntly, is the life you're living is the Dharma you're teaching and offering. So what do my actions say that I worship, or what do they convey about the Dharma to others, to myself? And that to me is a worthy invitation as we go forward. So thank you very much. We've got a minute or two just before we close out. So any last questions or wonderings from folks? Rosemary, I saw your hand go up and go down. So.
Yeah. Well, back to the speck of dust. I was wondering if the meaning might be to be careful about our delusions, not our vexations or our limitations, and the things that we'd like to be better at and all of that, but our delusions. Thank you.
I'd like to go back to Beowulf. Because I think you said, were you Skippy? And to me, that was actually really important, because there's a sense of play in that idea of worship that's freeing for me.
I mean, the one speck of dust, thunder's great mountains, spiritual penetration and wonderful functioning, fetching water and carrying wood. I think about this, I'm thinking about this speck of dust as, like, let's say, like a stroke, a concussion, something that we feel is very dusty. And it sunders this great mountain that this, whatever we describe as great. And then he moves to, we can penetrate all of it, fetching water and carrying wood. Just this,
Thank you.